Your mind was telling you no, but Buckley's body was telling you yes. But like in a masculine way. And I think that's where a lot of fools messed up. They came in with that WWF mindset and they were looking at Buckley like all bodied up and whatnot, and then Usman with the big old dome and the little chicken legs, like how's that fool even gonna keep balance out there? But you can't think about it like that. It's not all about muscles and stature and stuff like that. Think about like Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Cain Velasquez. Who's gonna win that fight? Lou Ferrigno versus John Jones. Bradley Martin versus Mighty Mouse. I think it's obvious. And I have to admit that at first I doubted Usman as well. You can't get online. You can't stream. You can't post videos when there's a big fight coming up without people asking you, who's gonna win? Who you got? Who's your prediction? And at first, I said Buckley. I was just thinking too much about Usman's knees. I was thinking about the age difference. I was thinking about what happened in his last 3 fights. And I was like, you know what? Joaquin Buckley, I don't even know if Usman could take Joaquin Phoenix right now. But I kept thinking about it and I wanted an accurate prediction. It was important to me. And I couldn't help but remember all the many times that I had doubted Usman in the past. And that fool kept proving me wrong. Until he fought Leon Edwards, of course, and both of those I predicted correctly. Very accurately, by the way. But the more I thought about it, it was like, how come I feel the way that I do? Is it because of his knees? The age difference? Buckley being in such shape? Buckley on a 6-fight winning streak? And it just started falling apart. By the way, if you actually objectively think about it, streaks are kind of overrated. Every fight is so different. It's like when you look at Tony Ferguson's 12-fight winning streak and it's like, I don't know that fool. Who's that? Oh, no, I definitely don't know him. That fool was washed up. Not a contender. Never was gonna be a contender. I kind of think Tony lost that one, but whatever. Basically, win streaks could be thrown into the same category as MMA math. And you already know how I feel about MMA math. Specifically, MMA long division, which I coined before you go and take that too, Tony Ferguson. But I know a lot of people don't believe in MMA math and they like to make fun of it. So you can't claim both things. You can't say MMA math is stupid, but then you also believe in win streaks, and that's gonna dictate the betting odds, and that's gonna make you think that Usman's gonna lose and this and that. I kept hearing about a 6-fight winning streak. Winning streaks, the claim to the winning streak is glorified MMA math. That's like if you're hanging out with your homies and you tell them, hey, I could take a really good punch, and you have them all line up and they all get a chance to sock you in the face. And then number 9, number 10, number 11, they all sock you in the face and you're like, I told you. And then number 12 knocks you out. Like, what do you think is gonna happen? A streak is a streak until it's not. I already know that you're gonna have to sit with this one for a little bit. You're gonna have to let it soak in, but it's eerily similar. It's very, very similar. Bragging about a winning streak is very, very close to bragging about how good you could take a punch. It's gonna be that way until it's not. So before the fight, I told the people it's all about, in this case, it's about the experience. I don't care about the youth. By the way, Buckley's not even that young. People keep talking about Buckley like if he was Max Holloway like 5 years ago, when everyone was like, oh snap, that fool's still like in his mid-20s, and we all thought he was like in his 40s already. And I'm not saying that Buckley's like super old or anything. He's not, but people are talking about him like if he's like 25 or something like that. He's not that young. And I told the people, when it comes down to it, it's all about experience, poise, composure. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me if Usman doesn't have his knees. It doesn't matter to me if Usman left his knees back in the hotel room and all he showed up with was that wisdom, that familiarity. He's been there before. That's all he needs. And they said, but what about the 6-fight winning streak? What about the triceps? What about the youth? And I'm like, it don't matter, fool. It don't matter. What about when Nogano came at Stipe Muchacho like that, like a rhino with all those muscles and hitting the Ford trucks and stuff like that? What happened? Stipe Muchacho said, no. So right off the bat, Buckley comes out to the song Georgia by Ray Charles. In case you didn't know, these fights were in Atlanta. He's trying to win over the crowd. He's trying to let it seep in for the judges right away. It's manipulative. It's all psychological. He wouldn't be playing games like this if he felt confident about what was about to happen. And then right after that, Usman came out with this flag, and he did that little flag dance that he does when he shuffles all the way to the cage. And I remembered immediately that I can't stand that for. I always hated that little dance, and it's important that I mention it in this video. I'm not an Usman fan. I've never been an Usman fan. I got like the Bret the Hitman Hart syndrome with him, but in regard to like hatred, I never liked him. I don't like him. I never will like him. I just knew what was gonna happen. I'm not an Usman fan, but I am an MMA truther. It also didn't help that a lot of people thought Usman was doing it just for the money. Nogano, Adesanya, Usman, they were supposed to be like tight, you know, homies. The we three kings of Africa are bearing bows. We travel to Fight Island. And a lot of people at the time started chattering about like, what about Adesanya versus Usman? We want to see that fight. That would be crazy. They should do it. And Adesanya was like, no, never. We're brothers. We're African kings. We would never do such a thing. And then Usman was like, well, maybe if the money was right. And Adesanya was like, bro. And maybe they're not like super tight or anything like that. But Usman and Makhachev kind of come from the same thing, you know, the management, they kind of go on holiday together, and it looks like they shop from the same store sometimes and stuff like that. Now Usman wants Makhachev too. That fool's all about the money apparently, so people were thinking maybe it's just a money grab, maybe he doesn't even care at this point, he's busting a corner. All that aside, when the fight finally started, it looked like a tutorial. It looked like one of those grappling tutorials in a video game where you just practice takedowns, and Usman would just take that fool down whenever he wanted. When I was streaming the Fight Companion, one of my viewers made a comment about how Usman was just diving for the legs clean, like if he was Ray Lewis. And I said that's funny because Buckley's defending like if he was Ray Charles. And I don't know if Buckley's a comedic genius like Andy Kaufman or something like that, fighting like Ray Charles after he just came out to Georgia, or if it was just an unfortunate coincidence. Not only did Usman take him down every single round, he took him down within the first minute of the fight. And he did not just lay and pray like a lot of people are now trying to suggest. He cut him up above the right eye. Buckley was so bloody that Bloody Buckley was trending in Great Britain before the round was over. So many people thought that Buckley was gonna pull up and give Usman that Pentecostal knockout, like if he was Rodolfo Bellato. I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the comment sections. I'm talking about the haters. I'm talking about the fans, the Usman fans, the people that were saying, my heart wants Usman to win, but my mind knows that Buckley's gonna take it. I'm talking about the MMA talking heads on social media with their YouTube channels. I'm talking about actual MMA analysts from ESPN, UFC. I'm talking about retired fighters sitting at the commentary tables. I'm talking about the betting odds. I'm talking about everybody was against Usman except for me. And why is that? What does it all come back to? The one thing that we kept hearing about even more than the 6-fight winning streak. You know what it is. I know what it is. And Usman definitely knows what it is. It's about the knees, which is kind of dumb, period. Because have you ever heard of Zion Clark? We're talking about Usman not having knees. Zion doesn't even have legs. Someone asked in the chat during the fight, are we sure about Usman's knees? Because I read about it in comment sections and I see memes and people talk about it. But is this confirmed? Because he actually looks pretty good out there. And I told them, hey, scope that one JRE episode where they're talking about his knees. And Usman's very open about it. He's saying how it's bone on bone, that his knees are gone, that even when he has to go like up and down the stairs, he actually has to go backwards. Like, I've never even seen anybody do that before. Like, he has to go backwards because his knees are done and he's in so much pain. And some of us got kind of spectacle during the fight, if I'm gonna be honest with you, because he was looking really, really good out there. And we were like, hey, for someone that supposedly has no knees, this fool kind of looks like he has the bee's knees. We were starting to wonder if maybe Usman put out this narrative so that people would underestimate him and he could smash. It's kind of like when you're out in the world and you just want to look kind of like docile and, you know, not look threatening. That way, if someone tries to, you know, do something to you, that you could be like, nah, 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 or like, look, I got a gun under my jacket. Or maybe he did have knee problems. And right after the JRE podcast, you know how JRE gets down? Maybe right after the podcast, him and Joe Rogan went to Mexico and they got themselves some new knees. Now, I will say, as the fight went on, I started to see, okay, I don't think he has the best knees. There were times later on throughout the fight where he had kind of like this wobbly, kind of like he looked like an alien, like his little chicken legs were trying to support his big old dome. He had this weird swaying kind of move. And I don't know if that's just something that he was playing around with or if he was really trying to catch his balance. But it looked kind of scary toward the end. And I think we might be giving him too much credit, honestly, to be saying that he's some kind of a mastermind lying about his knees, because we have to consider that he started saying that after the loss to Leon Edwards. So it makes more sense that he was trying to save some face and be like, well, yeah, fool, I don't have any knees. The perspective, the optics, the legacy. We've seen over the years different things that we've witnessed from Usman, different things that he said that's very important to him, how people view him. And I know that must have destroyed him after that loss. It definitely makes sense that that's something that he would throw out there to buy him a little bit of time, to give him an excuse to figure stuff out. As the fight went on, everybody could see that there was actually something going on with the knees, just from his stance and the way he was kind of rocking around and stuff like that. But he was able to get the job done. He was able to do it his style. And I said that from the beginning when I made my prediction. It might not be the most entertaining fight ever, and I still thought it was. I know everybody that is mad at the outcome because they lost money and whatnot is gonna call him a hugger, lay and pray and all that. I still thought that particular fight was exciting, but I said it might not be the most exciting fight because he's gonna do it his way, the way that he has to win right now. And I think what it was, coming out with legs that are not what they used to be, but still being able to win that fight. I think it's like that one song by Toby Mac where it's like, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. And he did it at will. There was no crazy distractions, no fancy footwork. He wasn't throwing feints. He's just like, he just dove into it and Buckley went down. The only takedown Buckley had was at the end of round 2. And by that, I mean after the bow, when Usman's leg was stuck and Buckley got up and dipped him on purpose. Dirty. Buckley's corner was telling him, don't let him bully you. Don't let him bully you, son. So he felt like he had to do something. He was showing off. It was a field trip. Usman was taking Buckley on a tour of the whole canvas. He was taking him from sponsor logo to sponsor logo. It was like that one dude on social media where he does that shuffle on his back and he goes through like all the different countries. That was the whole fight. And Buckley got a souvenir he's gonna have to live with the rest of his life. He got the monster logo tattooed onto his back by osmosis. There's one thing that Buckley could walk away with very proudly. He had a moral victory that night. In the last round, he had 4 takedown defenses. And that's something he should be proud of. And Usman should do the same thing. Remember, I'm not a Usman fan. I'm not delusional. I'm an MMA truther. I knew that Usman was going to win this fight. But the aspirations that he's talking about, the people that he wants to go on and fight next, the weight divisions that he wants to go into, I knew that he was going to win this fight. But I'm not saying that he should go on and fight that fool and go to that division and try to be a champ. I'm not saying all of that. Maybe you feel like Usman doesn't have the overall stature to hang in the middleweight division, but what he does have is that dome. Usman's got that Funko Pop that might get him through some respectable middleweight opponents, but I don't know if it's enough to go all the way. I think Usman should go out like Seinfeld while he's on top. This will be a perfect way to wrap up his legacy. And if he decides to keep going, then he's still gonna be like Seinfeld, but when he made that Pop-Tart movie. Here's the bottom line. Usman was the king of the division for a little while. He had it on lock, and he did it impressively. And now you got this young buck coming up. I just did that on the spot, don't trip. It reminded me of this one interview I saw with Tracy Morgan. And he was talking about his son when he was getting a little bit older. He was starting to act up a little bit and act too big for his britches, you know? So that Tracy Morgan started to walk around the house naked because he wanted to let him know who Big Dog was. I'm not sure if that's quite applicable here. There was a beautiful moment at the end of the fight where they exchanged words. And Usman told Buckley, hey, I'm gonna need you to tell me Happy Father's Day. And when Buckley said, how come? Usman told him, because I'm your daddy now.